So you're thinking about moving to Bend, Oregon, or maybe somewhere else here in Central Oregon, and you want to keep your finger on the pulse of the market as it stands right now. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be covering in today's video. Today marks the 2024 February version of our current real estate market update here in Bend and surrounding Central Oregon. So if this video sounds like it's for you, stick around. We're going to be getting after it right now. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living, eating, sleeping, working, playing, the good and the bad, the current state of the market here in Bend and surrounding sunny Central Oregon, then subscribe to the channel. Tap that notification bell below so you can be the first to know about the current market here in Bend and Central Oregon. My name's Ryan and I've lived in Bend for over 30 years. My business partner Zach and I, we get calls and texts every day from people just like you looking for help on making their smooth move to Bend or anywhere else here in Central Oregon. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90, it doesn't matter to us. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or even set up a Zoom. We have a Calendly link in the homepage of our YouTube channel. Click on that, schedule a meeting that's convenient for you, and we can have a conversation and get off to the races. So with that being said, we're going to do our version of the February 2024 market update as it relates to Central Oregon real estate right now. So we got through January. It flew by, just like it seems like every year the time goes by faster and faster. We're already in mid-February right now, so we're going to be doing our current update as it relates to Central Oregon real estate. What we typically do here is we share our screen and we pop over to the Beacon report because that is our trusty dusty source as it relates to market data here in Central Oregon. But before we do that right now, I just want to do a little housekeeping. We have a brand new website. It's called, you guessed it, movingtobendoregon.com. We just went live with it today. So you can go to that website anytime you want. A lot of our videos are already uploaded over there, but we have some other information. We always like to highlight the 13 neighborhoods associated with Bend. We'll be doing something similar to this to like Redmond and other smaller markets here in Central Oregon. But as you can see here, we scroll down, we see a lot of our YouTube videos are already up and running. So you can always just go over to movingtobendoregon.com and you can see a lot of our content right now. We've got our client testimonials down here as well. Those have called and reached out to us and used us as a result of watching our YouTube channel. So we're very thankful for them, but it gives you guys some idea as to what kind of an experience that we're going to provide our clients based off of the testimonials that they provided us. We can go over here. We can see the Bend's 13 distinctive neighborhoods too. That's a very big keynote that we're driving home right now because Bend is very unique in the sense that it does have 13 different neighborhoods. You can see over here on this map, it gives you an idea as to where in Bend each respective neighborhood is. And then we have a video that follows, a vlog style video that will give you context and understanding as to what each and every one of these individual neighborhoods is all about. Median price point, what the culture's like, what the vibe's like, how far it is from the airport, how far it is from up in the Cascade Lakes area, golf courses, schools, etc. So a wealth of information as it relates to Bend neighborhoods, where you're going to end up. And that's what we're trying to do with this particular website, is provide you guys as much information and value as we possibly can as it relates to you making that move. Maybe you're already here, but this can still be a great wealth of knowledge as well as a resource for you to research more about Bend and surrounding Central Oregon if you're choosing to relocate laterally, whether it's in Bend to Redmond or vice versa, or just Bend to Bend. It doesn't matter to us. Here's some information about Zach and myself. Get to know a little bit about our background and our families. So we just got this website up and running today. We're pretty excited about it. We would love it if you guys would check it out and give us some feedback on that. So anyway, back to the actual market update report right now. We have the Beacon report up here right now as we speak, and you can see here that we do have our data out. It just came out. Our median home price in Bend as of this recording, February of 2024, dating back to January, last month's data, $700,000. So we've kind of scaled down a little bit. This is kind of a typical thing this time of year. There's seasonality as it relates to real estate in general. It doesn't matter what the state of the market is or the economy is. Typically speaking, the holidays, December kind of slows down. January, still kind of a slow period. February, a little bit slower. We're in February now, so we're starting to see some uptick in activity activity. That will reflect in next month's Beacon report when it comes out around March 7th. But what you can see here is that we've been fairly stable in Bend with our median home price over the last 6 to 8 months or so, over $700,000 dating back to May of 2023, but we're at our lowest point here since May of 2023, $700,000. So if I had a crystal ball, I would predict that we're probably going to start scaling up a little bit as we get more activity. If interest rates do start to come down a little bit more, as we've been hinted that that's going to be the case, we don't know for sure because we actually don't have a crystal ball, but based off of seasonality and history, based off of a 12-month period of time, activity picks up. That will drive more demand into the market. That could also drive prices up. So it depends on where you're at right now. Are you looking to make that purchase right now based off current interest rates? Or do you have the luxury of being patient and you can wait until interest rates may dip? We think they will. We don't know for sure. But the reality is right now is a good time to buy because there is less competition in the market, which means that you can get in at a good, appropriate price without having to deal with all the competitors that may be giving offers on the same house that you're looking for. And if you do, then 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, interest rates do actually come down a significant amount, then you can always refinance out. But right now is a good time to be looking at a home just based off of what's available and comparing it to the competitors in the market right now, because I think we're still not that far away from that 2020, 2021, 2022 period of time when it was an absolute buying and selling frenzy, and buyers in the market would end up getting buyer's fatigue because they would have to put in multiple offers without even seeing the home. If a home came on the market within a day or two, all of a sudden there would be multiple offers on it. It got kind of repetitive and very exhausting for many people that were in the market, to the point where either they got lucky enough to get the house they wanted at a significant price based off of the listing price, or they just had to back out of the market and decide that they were going to start over later. So that's interesting. That's kind of where we're at right now. It's an interesting time to be in the market, a good time to be in the market. But ultimately speaking, if we were to zoom out, because real estate, typically, if it's a primary residence or if it's an investment, you're going to hold on to that asset for at least several years. And you're going to see over the course of the long haul, the price of your asset and your investment go up in value. So if you get in now, it's still a good time. But ultimately speaking, we're going to see a little bit more activity as we go into the spring season. That's how it is just about every single year. And I think the sales right here, as we look at them, are going to reflect that type of notion right now. So if we look at the number of sales last month, 89, okay, that was in January of 2024. Here we are right now. We're dealing with that right now. If we scale back all the way to January of 2023, that was the last time we actually had a number in the 8s, in the 80s. Okay. And so this gives you an idea. Basically, the line goes up every single spring, goes into the summer, into the fall, and then it kind of scales back around the late fall, early winter in the holidays, and then it kind of resets. And so we're not seeing anything unusual right now, but this gives you a feel for how active the Bend market was over the last 30 to 60 days. Days on market. This is an interesting statistic as well, because generally speaking, if you look back over the last 36 months, and that's what this chart really reflects, January of 2021 was 36 months ago, 4 days on market. We had an average of over a year, 12 months, where we had basically 12 days or less days on market, and then it actually came back down to under 10 again. So we had probably 16 to 18 months of days on market being under 10. That's how competitive the market was at the time, and we've seen that it's kind of cooled off right now. We haven't seen 43 days as a median days on market since February of 2023, about a year ago. But if history is any indication, March is coming right around the corner. Look at this significant drop here based off of 1 month, and we're going right into that spring season right now. So will we see something similar? Very, very possibly, but we don't know for sure. But if history is any indication of what lies ahead, we can expect more activity to pick up here, especially as we go into an election season. There's going to be a lot of interesting factors out there that kind of dictate how active or inactive the market's going to be. But based off of history, we're going to expect March, April, May, etc., to really pick up a lot of activity as it relates to the residential real estate market here in Central Oregon. You can see building permits, 25 were just taken out last month, 31 the month before, 34 the month before that. And so it's been a relatively slow period of time. And again, going into the spring season, that's more of an uptick when it comes to building permits getting taken out, because obviously the weather's much better for building and people are in a position where they want to make those types of decisions when it comes to building and new construction. Our inventory has actually tapered down a little bit. We had about 6 to 8 months of just straight 2 months of inventory, and then it came down. A lot of people took their houses off the market for the holidays, and so that actually affected the inventory that we had. There's building going on constantly around us. There's new building permits being taken out on a regular basis. That should taper up a little bit, and then eventually over the next 6 months or so, we should see inventory maybe scale up a little bit. It just depends on how much pent-up buying demand there is on the sidelines right now. There's a lot of people that have been waiting for interest rates to really come down over the last, say, 12 to 18 months, and they really haven't. We had, say, October of 2022 is when we finally really crept up there. We got up into the 7s, the mid 7s, and then even low 8s of November of this last year in 2023, and then we've kind of tapered down a little bit. But based off of the last 5 years, yes, they're extremely high based off of the last 5 years. If you were to scale out 30 or 40 years, they'd be relatively average and stable. So it's just all about perspective. A lot of brand new buyers, first-time buyers are getting in right now when they thought 3 years ago was the better time in retrospect, but the reality is hindsight's 2020. So if you bought now and you ended up refinancing later on, you would still be in a pretty good position. But this gives you a perspective, hopefully, of what's really going on in this market right now as we go into the spring buying and selling season, which is what we're all excited for. Median sales price per square foot, $349. You guys can look at that chart there, and then you can decide kind of where we're at. But it's all been relatively stable over the last 12 to 24 months, anywhere from $315 down here in February of last year, all the way up to $379 in September of last year, respectively. If we're to scale or scroll down a little bit, we're going to get into the Redmond area. And what we're going to see here is that their median home price has been relatively stable as well. And it didn't have the same dip in terms of percentage that Bend did last month, 507. If you look back here at August of 2022, this is Redmond's all-time high right here, 542,000. And we're still maybe 10%, if that, away from Redmond's all-time high right now as of this recording. But you can see here, going back to July and June of 2023, it's been 500,000 or above, or just under at 499. But ultimately speaking, Redmond's been very stable. If we look at the number of sales that Redmond's had, yes, it's going to be significantly less than Bend, just because Redmond is over half the size of Bend, maybe even 1/3 the size of Bend based off its population. But you can see here 36 sales in January, had its dip down there, maybe the bottom of this 12-month period of time at 27 back in December. And then we should start to see a steady scale up similar to Bend as we go into that spring and summer buying season. So interesting times ahead. Right now, interest rates are right around 7%, maybe just a smidge below 7%, just based off of the daily fluctuations. But that's kind of the baseline right now. Will we see something that changes interest rates and brings them down to 6% or below? Maybe there's a 5 in front of that number, 5 point something percentage points as it relates to interest rates. That could create a large buying frenzy as it relates to people that are sitting on the sidelines, because that's the interesting thing about Central Oregon, is that there's always going to be demand, whether you choose to be disciplined and wait, or you choose to get involved right away and then act on something like interest rates coming down, like a refinance. That's up to you, and that's up to your situation. But this gives you hopefully some perspective on what's really going on here in the Bend and Redmond areas here. You can see median days on the market, 41. It's scaled up just like it has in Bend. This is kind of a healthy number here, healthier number. Yeah, going back to like early 2021, that entire year where we had 4 days, average days, median days on market. I mean, that was just really unhealthy. I mean, it's fun if you're the seller, and it's the easiest thing you've ever done when it comes to selling real estate, but it's also very challenging if you're the buyer, because it's such a competitive market. And like we talked about earlier, that buyer's fatigue can set in. But stabilizing 41 days, a little bit more balanced. That's kind of what we're looking for. If we scale down conventional versus cash transactions, you guys can take a look at that there. And then building permits are kind of slightly on the uptick as well. December is historically a very slow month when it comes to real estate. The holidays, people pull their house off the market, or they choose to delay listing their home until the new year, just because of all the distractions, all the activity that a home can or cannot get based off of the holiday season and things of that nature. If we continue to scale down or scroll down here, what we'll see here, months of inventory. Okay, Redmond was at 3 months of inventory for about 5 months or so, and then it finally came down to 2 months. So there's been some houses that have either been not listed or taken off the market, or they've been delayed being put on the market. And so we'll probably see that number either stabilize at 2 or start to go back up as we get into that spring season. It all depends on the buyers, who wants to get involved right now, who wants to remain patient and see what happens. Nobody has that crystal ball, so we just don't really know what's going to happen. What we do know historically is that if you buy real estate and wait, generally speaking, it's going to turn into a sound and good investment for you, especially if you're in it for a medium to long-term period of time. Redmond's average square foot is $292. Cost per square foot, $292. You see that there. And if we scroll down, we will get into some other smaller markets here in the Central Oregon area. We've done videos recently on Sisters, okay? And this is actually for the month of January. Typically, this part of the Beacon report is based on quarterly sales, but what we get to see here is that the median price for Sisters last month was $686,000, but that's just based off of 8 sales. So what you know here is that it's a small sample size that can fluctuate greatly. If there's a $3 million home that sells this month, and that's gonna spike up that median home price most likely at a very alarming and noticeable clip. But that's just based off of smaller markets like Sisters. We've got Sunriver kind of in the same boat, 980,000 based off of 10 sales. Days on market 18, current inventory is 3 months. You can see Sisters here. 1 month of inventory and average or median days on market is 55. So those things tend to sit there a little bit longer. Sunriver's more of a resort style town, more suited for investors if they're not necessarily going to live there full time. So those homes tend to get picked up and purchased a little bit quicker than say somewhere like Sisters, or if we scale down to LaPine here. Median price in LaPine, $452. Interesting, that's got to be close to its all-time high. And we can see that there were only 8 sales last month, days on market 68. So LaPine's a little bit slower. It is still a very fast-growing town, but it also is still catching up to some of the other towns. But right now it's growing at a relatively fast pace, the second fastest growing town in the Central Oregon area. Jefferson County, that's where Madras is, 444. You can see Crook County, Prineville. We have a very popular video about Prineville, Oregon that we can link a card to in this video. And their median home price as of this recording is $403,000. They had 14 sales last month. So pretty interesting stuff here. This is the current state of the real estate market as it relates to Bend and Central Oregon. Nationally speaking, we're probably going to see something that's relatively similar in a comparable market to Bend, right? There's going to be people that are wanting to relocate to Bend, as well as Redmond and other areas in Central Oregon. They're either waiting right now, or they're just kind of getting their ducks in a row because they don't want to wait until the buying activity significantly picks up. And that is something that we expect over the next 3 to 6 months. So we'll just see what happens. Some of this data here is pretty interesting too. So these are number of sales year over year based off of Q4 of 2023 versus 2022. And so if you look at this here, what we're going to notice is that Bend actually had a dip in their total number of sales based off of Q4 of 2023 versus Q4 of 2022. And so what we're seeing here is probably a 15 to 20% dip in number of sales. And then Redmond, something similar, is probably a little bit more, probably closer to 30% in terms of the amount of sales that occurred, the reduced amount of sales in that market. And so what happened is that interest rates went up, and then of course the activity has gone down. What is interesting to note based off of the Central Oregon market is that our median sales prices really haven't reflected that. And so that was ultimately the goal with raising interest rates. It was going to slow down the market, which it did based off of volume of sales, but it didn't necessarily do that when it came to the price per product or price per home. As you can see, our median home price in Q4 of 2023 is at its all-time high if you were to compare quarterly based off of the history of sales in Bend, 729 for a 3-month stretch of time. And then you can see Redmond also had something similar. They were up. And then you can also see Sisters is up as well. The only real area that saw a slight decline is going to be Prineville here. And it's really not even that noticeable. It's still hovering around 400,000. Then you have LaPine as well, which though the days on market tends to add up in smaller markets like LaPine. If they had 60 or 70 days on market for an average, you're going to see prices be forced and pushed down to make those sales happen. So pretty interesting stuff here. If we look at the quarterly data based off of 2022 versus 2023, days on market is relatively the same. When it comes to Bend, 44 versus 52, we've had a slight uptick when it comes to days on market, but ultimately speaking, what we did notice was that the volume of sales is what is really being reflected based off of what the Fed has done, what the interest rates nationally have done to slow things down. The prices in Bend have really been stable, or they've actually gone up, and that has a lot to do with the people that are relocating from out of our Bend market here. They're coming in from places like Southern California, or they're coming in from Northern California or the Seattle area, where all three of those respective markets have significantly higher median home prices than Bend and Redmond, especially, respectively. And so that's what's interesting about it, is that people that are relocating from those markets will sell their home. They'll get a great amount of equity that comes with that sale, and then they come over here and they make a purchase relatively quickly. Which with what seems like a great deal and a bargain, which it is, but if you compare it to the same style of home in an area that's comparable in those respective markets in California and Washington, it's going to feel like a steal. So people jump on that opportunity right away. But you can see here, this is the real telling statistic for me as far as these graphs are concerned. If we look at the entire full year, okay, 2022 versus 2023, what we're looking at here in the Bend market, 2,889 sales versus 2,244 sales. So if you zoom out a little bit over the course of 12 months, you're going to notice a significant difference. 600 sales less or beyond that is a very noticeable number when it comes to the number of units being sold in a market of 100,000 people. And then you have the smaller market, that is Redmond, 36,000 people. We had 1,109 sales in the entire year of 2022. Compare that to 819 in the year 2023. So very interesting numbers there. If you combine those two, we're looking at almost 1,000 sales less in just Bend and Redmond based off of 2022 versus 2023. Will that change? I guess we're just gonna have to wait and find out. What I think is gonna happen is that it's going to start to increase a little bit. It will stabilize. We're gonna see some interesting things to try and incentivize people to get back into the market, whether it's selling or whether it's purchasing over the next 12 months. So that's something to be optimistic about if you're on the sideline right now, waiting to either sell or waiting to make that purchase. If we look at the smaller markets here in the Central Oregon area, we see the same type of trend, right? Sisters had 254 total sales versus 202, comparing 2022 to 2023. Same thing with Prineville, 465 to 366. And then of course Madras and then LaPine are seeing similar style of decreases in total volume of sales. So will that change? We think it will. We expect it to. It's just a matter of time. The one variable that we don't know is when exactly that moment is going to happen. But if we look at again a 12-month zoom out, 12-month chart of what our median sales price in Bend was, This is interesting too. We've got basically stable numbers in Bend, 730 in 2022 versus 720 in 2023. Redmond, you can look at that one a little bit lower in 2023, but ultimately relatively stable. And so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. You can look at the other smaller markets in this particular stretch of Central Oregon to get a feel for where we're at right now based off of the data. A lot of our viewers have enjoyed our vlog style videos out in the field, and now they're actually getting ready to make some sort of action happen as it relates to relocating, buying, maybe selling, but they need to get a grasp of this data here so they can feel the most confidence possible going into that transactional period of their life. Days on market, you can see here, this is a very telling statistic as well. 2022 is just crazy when it came to just the volume, but even 2021 was crazier, right? 26 days on average in Bend over the course of a 12-month period of time. That's a low number, but 2021 was probably half that. It was probably 13 or even less, maybe around 10. And so we've seen basically, if this would be 2021, the baseline here, what the bar would look like, we've seen a steady uptick in days on market. That has to do with the interest rates, that has a lot to do with interest rates pulling what would-be buyers could be in the market. They're pulling them out of the market for at least the short term. And so they're waiting it out. Some people are getting impatient, so they jump into the market. Others are just going to stay disciplined and wait it out. But ultimately speaking, we had the luxury of basically financing homes for 3% or less, or 4% or less. And so that became kind of a short-term norm, and we got used to that, and people were enjoying that. They didn't necessarily take it for granted, but those that have been in real estate for a long time, whether it's their second, third, fourth, whatever home they're purchasing, they seize the opportunity to finance a home at 3% or less. And so we had a rapid increase in interest rates that took basically a 12-month period of time to kind of reset things. And so there's a recency bias right now where people just 2 or 3 years ago are enjoying those 3% interest rates. And now we have to come to terms with what is a reasonable interest rate now. Is it 7%? Is it 8%? Or is it 5.5%, 6%? What is it? What we're experiencing now is kind of a reset. So what we had was a peak of 8% back in November, and now we're kind of scaling down. So the new norm, the new good interest rate, is that going to be 6.5%? Is that going to be 6%? I can remember people would go out to restaurants, or they'd go out and hang out with their friends. They'd brag about their interest rate 2-3 years ago. Yeah, I've got a mortgage for 3%, or I got mine for 2.75. Where is that new number going to be where people that are new purchasers, new buyers in the market are going to start saying, yeah, I got my home for 6.5%. Where is it going to feel good again and comfortable? That's kind of where we're at right now. I think ultimately the government, the Fed, was kind of trying to reset our expectations, and that's where we're at right now. So we peaked out at 8%. Maybe we're going to continue to trend down. That would be the expectation and the hope, of course. We'll see what happens. We don't know for sure, but that's kind of where the trend is leaning towards. But we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. So anyway, I hope this video serves you well. If it's time for you to reach out, please do so. You can call us, you can text us, you can email us, you can set up that Calendly meeting through our Zoom link, or you can go to our new website, movingtobendoregon.com, to reach out to us. And as always, Zach and I appreciate the support on the channel. We love the fact that you're watching these videos on a regular basis. We love how long you're watching these videos. We really appreciate it. We would love if you would comment on the video here. Let us know what else we can cover. Please like the video or dislike it if you don't like it. Either way, it helps us get these videos out to more people. And as always, we're thankful for the support on the channel, and we will plan on seeing you guys on the next video. Thanks, and have a great day.